So today I will talk about some of movements and artists during 1970. There is graffiti art, neo-expressionism, and post-modernism. This is an example of graffiti art also known as street art. It's during 1970 and 1980. This is an example of neo-expressionism. It's one of postmodernism. The next is an example of postmodernism. The artists change their books from form to image. Then next talk about some artists during 1970. First is land art Robert Smithson. He drives his car into a salt lake to make a land art. He makes the art not just showing in the museum or gallery. The next is feminist art Judy Chicago. The piece is a triangle-shaped dinner table. There are 39 female pastry sit together. The different sitting means their different contribution. The next one is the performance art Marina Abranes. Okay, so you can see she is a crazy woman at the pictures. And by the way, the background music from the beginning until now is one of popular songs in 1960, which called Tonight's Night. Hope you will like it.
The 1980s was a revolutionary time period for the arts in the United States. MTV launched their first music video, the Walkman became accessible to modern citizens, and performance art became progressively more popular. The deaths of John Lennon in 1980 and Bob Marley in 1981 left a gaping hole in America that only a few could fill. Michael Jackson quickly became known as the king of pop and completely transformed the way America viewed music and dance. He often performed in a leather jacket and white glove. This is when he invented the moonwalk. Madonna rallied alongside Michael Jackson and gained the popularity she deserved by pushing the boundaries of lyrical content. She began experimenting with drum machines and synthesizers that quickly took root and soon became a part of other artists as well. During this same time, art began to change as well. Jenny Holzer, a neo-conceptual artist, took art to a whole new level than just paint on a canvas. She expressed her art through words and ideas in public spaces. Laurie Anderson began to think outside the box as well in the 1980s. She started her career in the 60s but never made her claim to fame until the 1980s because of her unique use of a violin during a performance in 1982.
Bueller. Grace! Bueller. Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off not only appealed to the common people, but it also made a big impression on young, aspiring filmmakers who saw it, thus creating a new platform on the way movies are made today. Horror films became widely popular in the 1980s, but they've been around since the 1960s. This begs the question, why are they just now becoming popular? I believe that the reason for this is because naturally, people like the adrenaline rush they get from seeing a good horror film, but they never became popular because the special effects were nothing more than a few props. Now in the 1980s, filmmakers were able to create a more real sense of horror, specifically in the movies Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street.
My perception of the arts of the 90s is that it's about shock factor and testing limits. This can be portrayed in the form of art that the 90s are most known for, music. The new sounds of hip-hop and rap sparked many debates in censorship, race, and class due to their bold words and depiction of gang violence, misogynist sexual politics, and homophobia. Dr. Dre's debut album, The Chronic, received negative feedback from critics, with comments of it being a frightening, amalgam of inner-city street gangs. 2 years later, the Notorious B.I.G. released his debut album, Ready to Die. This album, in contrast to Dr. Dre's, was highly praised, even though the shock factor and imagery of the songs was far from being different, such as in the song Suicidal Thoughts. The difference was that society was more accepting and started to warm up to rap culture as time progressed. The grunge music phase started with the change of rock, with bands like Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and Nirvana. It usually described teen and young adult angst and suffering, such as the song Jeremy by Pearl Jam and Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden, as well as the songs Polly and Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. The shock factor these songs induce is because they are inspired by events that actually happened. Jeremy is about a 15-year-old boy in a Texas high school that stood up in front of his class and shot himself. By the end of the decade, people wanted something more chipper, not the angry tunes that the early years produced. This is when bubblegum pop was born, creating names such as Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, and the creation of their extremely risque and sexual music videos and their songs, such as this new wave of music also brought new names of boy bands, like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, whose fame and music led well into the new millennium. The works of Kara Walker, Felix Gonzalez Torres, and Kiki Smith produced both 2D and 3D works based on feminism, race, and sexuality, which are topics more and more people began to vocalize on. Though prominent, music wasn't the only thing that was causing an uproar in the 90s. Fine art also caused quite a controversy. Performance artists also enjoyed stirring the pot with their controversial works, such as the NEA4. An example would be Karen Finley's Chocolate Smeared Woman, John Fleck's Blessed Are All the Little Fishes, Holly Hughes' Clit Notes, and Tim Miller's My Queer Body. These shocking pieces were made to give voice to controversy, with their crudeness and the subjects in which they touched upon.
2000s to the present has been surrounded by controversy. The 2000 election of George W. Bush was controversial since George W. Bush lost the popular vote, but he was elected because he won the electoral vote. The controversy then continued with the War on Terror being the government's response to the September 11th attacks in 2001, and this controversy has surrounded the arts as well. Lucian Freud painted a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II using his style of naturalism. While some called this painting thought-provoking and psychologically penetrating, others found it to be an extremely unflattering picture of the Queen. However, just 4 years later, Rolf Harris painted an official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II that was so well received that it went on public display at the Buckingham Palace. The very recognizable Hope poster with a picture of Obama's face became a viral phenomenon with just a good image of Obama's face and the word hope. This poster has become an important symbol in the political landscape today. The Chapman brothers' Rape of Creativity also has been a very controversial art exhibit. It is an eerie installation with recurring themes of swastikas, black, red, and white symbols, and the McDonald's logo as well as its mascot. The Chapman brothers also went as far as bringing religion into their pieces, like the unholy McTrinity, which had 3 of McDonald's most recognizable mascots hanging from crosses. Another controversial art piece is Seward Johnson's Forever Maryland sculpture. This sculpture seems innocent enough because from the front it is just a statue of an American icon in an iconic pose, but if you were to go around and look at the back of the statue, well, you can see why it's controversial. Music has also been surrounded by controversy. Hip-hop became commercially popular during this time, and autotune gained popularity with it. However, some people believe that autotune can make a talentless person talented because they are able to alter their voice so greatly. One of the most popular and controversial hip-hop artists is Eminem. While he had massive commercial success, his music has been surrounded with controversy because of his consistent, offensive, and explicit lyrics. Meanwhile, while hip-hop gained popularity, bands like U2 also experienced an insane amount of success. In fact, their U2 360 tour
is the highest grossing tour of all time, raking in over $736 million because of the appeal of the band and the groundbreaking and risky 360-degree production during the shows. Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ, which is a story about Jesus' last 12 hours of life, is debatedly the most controversial film of all time. It has been called anti-Semitic and way too violent, and it even had dozens of Jewish demonstrators protest the film at the New York cinema. Yet through all the controversy it experienced, it is the second highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Meanwhile, James Cameron's Avatar experienced wild success. It is the highest grossing film of all time and has revolutionized filmmaking because of its spectacular and groundbreaking special effects. Reality TV has also gained popularity, but is a controversial type of television program. While some people state that it makes the audience feel like part of the competition, others believe that it only focuses on sexual content and conflict between the participants of the show.